Okay, here's a bit of a warning ahead of the two-man wall. Johnny Ward and Adam Ross are very, very briefly going to talk about VAR, how much I absolutely hate it. And then we'll get to talking about the weekend's games, some very interesting games coming up. Premier League really heating up. It was said by, I think Joe Cole said this at the weekend. Argentina, on the death of Maradona, of course, Argentina against England, both of those goals do not happen because of VAR. Obviously, the hand of God, which fair enough. The other one, he would have gone back for an earlier infringement. That goal would never have happened. I absolutely hate VAR. And the mad thing was, watching the Liverpool-Brighton game, the reporter, Des Kelly, goes to Jurgen Klopp after the game. He says, what did you make of your 2 goals disallowed for offside? And then you're done by VAR at the end. And the irony of it was, and this kind of sums up VAR was right, but VAR was horrible. And it's just spoiling my enjoyment of the game. Discuss.
Yeah, it feels like I haven't really heard anyone argue for it too strongly in the media recently. I think it's a really tricky situation that we're in. Obviously, you remember when we spoke to Miguel Delaney a few weeks back, and all the indications from the inside are that this is something that we're just going to have to get used to, that hopefully that we can let it evolve and grow and change as time goes on. But it sucks the life out of everything, doesn't it?
Sucks the life out of it is exactly what it is. It takes the good out of the beauty of football, the randomness of it, just the fact that referees can make mistakes. Who cares?
And I think the issue that at hand originally was always, we were kind of talking about referees every single week, weren't we, and the mistakes that they were making. But if we're just going to be talking about the mistakes VAR's making, then really what's the difference? Hopefully, I sent this to you in the week, hopefully Holland might have saved football. Fingers crossed. In Holland, they're going with linesman's call, essentially. So instead of, whereas our lines on the TV are kind of 1 pixel wide and they're tiny thin things, and we're arguing over whose armpit's offside compares to whose kneecap's offside, and they've gone with 5 centimetre lines. And if the lines are touching, then they'll stick with what the linesman originally called, whether it was onside or offside. If the lines are touching, so that essentially gives the linesman a 10 centimetre margin of error.
Right.
Which, it just makes sense. So let the linesmen and the referees on the pitch make the decisions, and then we'll use VAR to help us out with any howlers. Because I think we can sit around and say, obviously Henderson's come out this week and said that he's not happy with it. De Bruyne has said the same. But unless they either all come together, all the clubs in Europe, and say, look, we don't want it, then it's not going to go anywhere.
Okay.
And to be honest, that's never going to happen. So we're just going to have to try and evolve VAR as we go along, and hopefully we can get back some semblance of the game that we knew a few seasons ago, and that we still see. To be fair, we still see throughout the Football League, like, the game is still the same as it was before VAR. It hasn't been tainted in that way, so it's still, the magic is still there. But
don't listen to Adam Russell. We don't need VAR. We don't need it at all. We're going to get rid of it altogether and go back to where we were. Go back to how it used to be, Adam.
You're getting me wrong. Like, I don't like it, and
you just don't see it happening.
It's just not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, it's happened now. It's in every major league in Europe. FIFA are on board with it. UEFA are on board with it. All the leagues are on board with it. So there isn't anyone pushing back and saying, look, we're not going to do it. So I think we're just going to have to get used to it and try and improve it as we go.
Okay, so outright market: Liverpool 7-4, Manchester City 7-4, Chelsea, who couldn't beat Spurs, which I think would have made a big difference, and Spurs, the aforementioned, 11-2, and Manchester United, who obviously came from behind with Cavani in the news for many reasons, 22s, forget the rest. I don't know. I still see Liverpool as the most likely winners, but we have a very, very fascinating football week ahead. First of all, you want to talk FA Cup, though, and a bit of potential giant killing.
Well, just a shout out really to my hometown club, Chorley, who made it through to the 3rd round, and they drew Derby County. So a nice little Wayne Rooney versus Chorley angle going in the
lovely
in the local press, and obviously to Marine as well, who I believe the lowest ranked side left in the competition, and they obviously got Spurs. So Mourinho going to Marine, it's going to be.
I like that.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, that, and it's certainly going to be a just reward for them for the hard work and getting to the 3rd round. When especially you think how difficult a year it's been for grassroots, amateur clubs, semi-pro clubs.
Absolutely.
To and keep going. It's great to see 2 non-league clubs in the hat for the 3rd round as well. So just
Yeah, plenty of talk about the difficulties facing clubs, not at the top level, more so at the lower level, where really the game is kind of a lot more realistic and kind of, I suppose, in tune with the working man and the working women who sport it. But getting back to the Premier League, Manchester United, they're kind of still just about holding on in there and visit, obviously, a former manager in David Moyes' West Ham. And this is going to be an interesting one. I would find Manchester United pretty hard to call at the best of times, to be honest, Adam.
Yeah, it was very hard to call against Southampton, even sort of half an hour to go. I didn't see them getting that result, and obviously they did. I think West Ham have really sort of crept up on fifth place so far. No one's really been talking about them, but
yeah,
like the consistency of selection's been a really key factor of this for them. Like Moyes has only made 4 changes to his starting 11 all season so far.
Wow.
And they've just beaten the teams around them. They've beaten the teams that, if you're going to get towards sort of 7th, 8th place at the end of the season, you need to beat teams like Wolves, Villa, Sheffield United, Fulham, Leicester. You've got to do that on the way there. So that's kind of often been the difference for them between having a good season and being down in the relegation places, is the results they've got against the teams around them. So,
but Man United have won 8 on the spin away from home, which is a new top flight record, and incidentally one that happened when obviously there was no one there.
Yeah, it's I guess home and away form doesn't really count for much, but it's still impressive feat for them nonetheless. And I kind of felt with the Southampton game there was, and I felt it a few times under Solskjaer so far, thinking kind of back to that night in Paris and a few other occasions where that siege mentality, that never give up spirit that was always kind of synonymous with Fergie and the great United sides of that era. There is something about this Solskjaer team for me it's got a little bit of that in it.
Yeah.
And they don't quit. There's been a few occasions, and obviously this one where they've come from behind and they've nicked it at the end. That's a Manchester United result through and through, isn't it? That's what Manchester United have always done. So maybe that's something that a kind of mentality that Ollie can build on over the rest of the season, and maybe hopefully they can get into the top 4 and sort of start challenging some of those other clubs that are up there. And obviously, the more teams that are in the race, the better. So,
yeah, and they're a shade of odds against at 21-20. Liverpool 8-15 at home to Wolves as well. On the back of beating Ajax last night, with Caoimhin Kelleher doing very well. Rare Irish clean sheet for a goalkeeper in the Champions League, and also obviously the big game then Spurs and Arsenal. Although at this stage, even money Spurs. Speaking to Flynn Goward, obviously on the Trader Chat on Monday, he's very disappointed with his beloved Gunners. But at the same time, would you fancy Spurs at even money?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Spurs again this week.
Okay.
We obviously backed them. We backed them against we backed them. We backed them for the draw last week against Chelsea, and we backed them for the win against City the week before. I think the thing is, nobody's conceded fewer goals than Spurs this season in the Premier League so far. They only conceded 9. And you could see from the game against Chelsea that Jose's made defending a collective responsibility for Spurs, which I don't think it has been for quite a while on the Spurs sides. I think Arsenal, on the other hand, you've only got 3 clubs in the Premier League that have scored fewer goals than Arsenal this year.
Remarkable.
Yeah, Sheffield United, West Brom and Burnley is obviously the 3 lowest teams in the league. So I feel like it's not working for Arteta at the minute. That formation's just not working. The only threat seems to be from the wing backs. Doesn't seem to me like the inverted forwards or the midfielders are being creative enough. They're not creating enough chance. They're not getting Aubameyang in the right positions as well, and that's a really big thing for them. And they can't just let Aubameyang drift wherever he wants. You need that player. He's your gun player. You need to get him into positions where he's going to score goals. If you don't do that, then you're always going to struggle. So it's going to be. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Like, I'd be interested in sort of under 2.5 goals. But I'm going to go Tottenham to win to 0 is 5-2 at the minute. So yeah, I like that. I also think Harry Kane. No one scored more North London derby goals than him. I think one more and he'll be outright the leader in the records. So Tottenham to win to 0. Kane score any time. That's 9-2. And obviously, given last week's game at Chelsea, 0-0, 10-1. I think that's another interesting angle. You could see it happening again, couldn't you? Arteta puts every man behind the ball, and so does Jose, and we have a bit of a stalemate that never really gets going.
Definitely think that's going to be tight. Definitely think it's going to. You like Fernandes to score at any time as well, 70-10. He's been really, really key to the Well, I don't know what you'd call it, but he's been excellent since he joined Man United anyway.
Yeah, I think since he joined, no one else in the Premier League's had more goal contributions than him. I don't think anyone's had more assists than him. I think if you're gonna be betting on United games, it's probably the safest bet you can have at the minute is Bruno Fernandes to score any time. 17-10 against West Ham to score any time. It's printing money in my opinion. He's on the set pieces. He could get the penalties. Obviously, there's a bit of maybe Rashford might take them, but he could well end up on a penalty. And he gets himself into positions to score goals, especially on the counter attack. So I think 17-10 for him any time is good value. I also like, for a West Ham perspective, Thomas Souček has really been impressive for them so far this season and to the sort of tail end of last season. He's just given a bit more energy and emphasis to that midfield. There's someone getting box to box and being a threat. So I really like him. I think he's a good player. He's 10-3 to score any time. Obviously, he's not a massive goal scorer, but you often see in these big games that your big players sort of stand up and make themselves counted. So yeah, I fancy him to score any time as well.
I'm going to give a shout to Sheffield United, who've had a dreadful season, but Leicester's last 3 results were dreadful against Liverpool. Lost 3-0, conceded 3 in Bragg and a 3-3 draw, and then lost 1-2 at home to Fulham, obviously. And Sheffield United, I still think they're, as much as I thought they'd struggle this season, I still think they're better in their position. And they're 11-4 to beat the Foxes, and that's a 2:15 start on Sunday. What else do we have, Adam?
That's very brave. I can't believe you've backed that one.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens to Wilder, but no, I think Sheffield United will. I think they're definitely a lot better than.
I think they'll stick with Wilder. No matter what happens, given obviously everything he's done to get them where they are and everything they've achieved. Yeah, they probably stick with him, I would say. But it kind of strikes me as, like Fulham do when they come up, they don't spend too much money, and if they go back down, they've still got a good base to then try and come back up with a bit more stability next time around. Wouldn't surprise me even if they did go down to see them bounce straight back. But yeah, 11-4 against Leicester, that's brave. I'm probably going to, I'd lay that any day, to be honest with you.
And I think that's it for us too.
Yeah, it looks like it, mate. Have a good week.
Yeah, you too. That was the 2 mile wall for this week. Enjoy whatever game you're watching this weekend or whatever games you're watching, and we will talk to you next week.